This week on our free preview here on YouTube, join us as we take a look at the big revision to the jobs numbers. For now, sit back, relax, and join us as we take you through the numbers. Hi, Lauren.
Hi, Lyndsay.
How are you?
Doing great. How about you?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to the weekend ahead.
Yes, we are pre-recording today because
We
of the
are.
Labor Day holiday coming up.
Yes. So, in keeping with that theme, we are bringing our folks today a labor-themed episode.
Yes.
It seemed appropriate.
It seems appropriate for Labor Day.
Yes. So, while everybody is enjoying the long holiday weekend,
We
our
hope so.
team will be editing this and putting it up.
Sorry, Bill and Joy.
Yeah. But we're pre-recording this so that we
Yes.
too can enjoy the Labor Day holiday.
Exactly.
But it will still be out there for everybody to see on time because we have a
Absolutely.
great team here.
We do. We're so grateful.
Any big plans for the weekend?
For me, no, still making plans.
Yeah.
And I might actually be out in your neck of the woods. I hear you have
yes.
something really fun going on.
Yes, over Labor Day weekend, it is always UFO Festival in my town. It is a site of a pretty famous alien abduction. So speakers come from all over the globe, experts they call them, to give presentations, and it's cheesy as much as it is informative, and the kids love it. So
Well, we might check that out too. So I hope to see you this weekend.
Yes, definitely shoot me a text. We'll show you around UFO Festival now that we're
Excellent.
Now that we're pros at it.
And your locals. So.
Yes, exactly.
Perfect.
We did not move there just because of you.
Oh, I hope not. This is how rumors start.
Yes. All right, but jumping right into the headlines.
Absolutely.
Our first headline of the day is new data shows U.S. job growth has been far weaker than initially reported.
Yes.
And in summary, this article is really talking about the most recent release of data with regards to the jobs report. The Bureau of Labor Statistics preliminary annual benchmark review of employment data suggests that there were 818,000 fewer jobs in March of this year than were initially reported, representing the largest downward revision since 2009. However, important to note, also brought up in this article, that job growth is still historically strong.
Yes.
So let's start with what's with the revision. How can anybody have a handle on this stuff if months later we're getting these big revisions?
Yeah, it's so funny because we've talked about this before. Anytime new data comes out and we'll say, well, this is just the preliminary release, right? We're going to get more just nuanced data as it comes out. They kind of fine-tune the numbers, fine-tune the estimates. So with the labor market so much in the headlines right now and all of these jobs numbers just so deeply analyzed, when this revision came out, and again, only the preliminary revision, we will get more revisions to this data.
Right. When will we know the finalized numbers?
This is not the answer anyone wants to hear, but we will not get the final data for this data set until February of 2025.
Wow.
So stay tuned.
I know. Why does it take so long?
It's such a complex, system of collecting the data, and we're not counting every job that's created. What the Bureau of Labor Statistics is doing is they're taking these surveys of what they call a representative sample. So there are two major surveys that we quote here. Each one has slightly different information that it gathers. The so-called payroll survey, that's more technically known as the Current Employment Statistics, or CES survey.
Okay.
That takes a representative sample of 130,000 businesses. And that's where we get like these jobs numbers, non-farm payrolls, as we hear, right? The jobs report.
Yeah.
The other survey, it's called colloquially the household survey. That is also known, again, technical term, as the Current Population Survey, or CPS. That is a representative sample of about 600,000 households. So that's where we get things like the unemployment rate. So I know we've had discussions in the past where, hey, the jobs created show one thing, the unemployment rate is showing something else. How can these two both be true? It's due to some definitional differences between the two. So the period surveyed, it would be like for the current population survey, it would be something like the week of the month, including the 12th, but for the payroll survey, it's going to be the pay period that includes the 12th of the month. So nuanced, very technical. I don't want to split hairs here. I realize I'm going that way very quickly.
But we'll have people that want to know. So.
Exactly. So there are some slight differences in definitions and time periods, et cetera. But at the end of the day, these are two different surveys. There is sampling error. And so the BLS is doing what they can to minimize that sampling error, but they're also getting additional data as we go, and they do benchmark each of these things. So I mentioned in the spring, that's when we get that kind of final result. The payroll survey is benchmarked annually to unemployment insurance tax records. Because that is, again, not a sample, we get a tax record from every business. The household survey, that's benchmarked to population estimates every year. But again, that's still an estimate. So really the only hard stake in the ground that we have for that is the census, which is, as you know, every 10 years.
Right.
So a lot of estimation happening. That's why we get just little differences here and there.
Okay, but still such important numbers because
that's the problem.
All eyes are kind of on them with regards to obviously the Fed and so many other things that we talk about here. We want to be able to kind of get a grip on it. But there was a quote that I pulled from the article that I thought was important to share. I liked how this was said.
Yeah.
It says, it is important for markets to remember that these are not job losses.
Yes.
It is just that the job count was never that high. The economy apparently did not need those phantom lost workers because robust real consumer expenditures powered very strong economic growth in the second half of last year. So what are they saying here? The job count was never that high. What does that mean?
Exactly. So we, again, do get changes to initial estimates, but this is all just that. It's an estimate of how many people are working, unemployed, et cetera. So I've read a number of other headlines on this revision that are much more inflammatory. I think this article that we're discussing today, it's actually pretty well balanced.
Okay.
These other headlines on the revision, there were things like U.S. added 818,000 fewer jobs than reported. U.S. job growth revised down by the most since 2009. Why this time is different. They really are trying to, kind of push, again, the sky is falling narrative that sells newspapers. But what really happened here, it's not that 800,000 people were laid off, that someone had a job and now doesn't. It's that we thought that job existed. It was reported as having existed, but it never did. So to put this another way, to put it in context, if we look at the number of employed workers that are, in the workforce, right, that total employment base had been reported at 160 million jobs. It was actually 159.2 million
big
jobs.
Difference.
So big difference here, right?
Yeah. So, all right. Well, a downgrade nonetheless. Do we know, is it sector specific? Where is the weighting, or the downside pressure coming from?
Yes. So it was not completely concentrated in any one sector. About half of these jobs were in professional and business services. So I guess that was kind of the largest single lump, but that's a broad category. Other sectors with a big downgrade were things like the information industry, leisure and hospitality. That was down somewhat significantly. And also manufacturing was down about, I think it's 0.9%. So a significant chunk to not just one sector, right? It wasn't just the service sector. It wasn't just manufacturing. It was fairly broad-based. But again, to put that number in total context, the overall change was 0.2%, and our average adjustment over the past 10 years has been 0.1%. So a big one, yes, but not a sea change to the direction in especially any one industry.
Yeah, because when I'm reading something like that, and the things that kind of jump off the page at me are the service industry is down in the number of jobs, and the manufacturing sector is down in the number of jobs. And, whether you've learned it from listening to this show or like I have learned this from you, I now know that what once was a manufacturing-based economy is now heavily weighted in, business services.
Yes.
So if I'm hearing both of those are down, down and responsible for these downward revisions.
Right.
I'm wanting to kind of know, what does that mean for the economy? Is that a leading
Absolutely.
indicator to anything awful coming our way?
Well, again, it isn't that we have job losses in
Okay.
those categories. I know we've talked about this so much in the past, the components of job growth, right, really matter.
Yeah.
In recent months, when we've had things like government and healthcare overweighted in job gains, those are less correlated with that kind of overall macro cycle, that broad macro cycle. The service sector, manufacturing, that's where more kind of the core fundamentals come in. So
Okay.
we don't want to see phantom jobs having not really been created in any
Right.
sector. But again, this is not a great component weighting, if we had to say that. Again, I'm going to get back to the main point, which is that these are not job losses. Job growth is still positive in those sectors, just
Yeah.
less positive. So
Okay.
job growth overall still slowing.
Okay, and not job losses. I like that's something that you keep reiterating. I think because when you hear this stuff, that's where your brain immediately goes.
Right.
So I do think it's important to clearly define the two.
Mm-hmm.
Another quote that I pulled from the article: "This may be a wake-up call for Powell and Fed policymakers that they need to commit to cuts and forward guidance more explicitly." So these figures were obviously released before the economic symposium last week.
Yes, Jackson Hole.
Yes. So what now that these numbers are released, what were you hearing out of Jackson Hole, if anything, that maybe came from this conversation?
Right. I don't think this revision specifically caused any of those Jackson Hole comments.
Okay.
Again, this is contributing to the ongoing trend. Again, growth is slowing, maybe to a greater degree, but still slowing, yet still positive growth. Now, I guess you can never pick apart what's in any central banker's brain, but
Yeah.
we do see that they committed to rate cuts, essentially. I think we are fully committed to that path.
Okay.
It would take just a seismic shock in economic data for us not to get at least a 25 basis point cut in the September meeting. So was this a part of that? Maybe at some point. Again, we never want just one data point, again, especially not a final data point
Right.
to make our decisions for us. But to me, this is just one more kind of card falling in the house of cards, so to speak.
Yeah, so definitely another little bit of a wake-up call or kick in the pants, like the article was saying.
Yeah, I don't want to call it the straw that broke the camel's back. That's not true.
No.
But it is, again, added up in the total column, it is significant.
Okay. And to round out with this quote, 160 million people have a job, telling me that over the last 12 months, it wasn't 160 million. It was 159.2 million is not making too much of a difference to how the Fed and financial markets are thinking about the economy.
I agree completely. I mean, private sector employment is still at a record high. That's what really does matter here.
So is it just a counting issue and not necessarily something that needs to be a red alarm headline?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's a counting issue. And we'll get final counts in February.
Yes.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned for a really long time.
Yeah.
That's all the time we have for today here on our free preview on YouTube. Please remember to like and subscribe. And if you'd like to subscribe to full-length episodes, please click on the link in the description below. But until next time, bye, Lauren.
Bye, Lyndsay.